Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, Andrew Berry, the GM of the Cleveland Browns, extended. No details yet, but C-Rob, expected to be a multi-year extension. I think this is something to what Cleveland thinks of their organization right now, where they are, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And, actually, Andrew Berry's extension was done during last season. They just didn't announce it. And that's actually news. I don't think anyone's reported that yet, but they had dotted the I's and crossed the T's. Ownership had on Andrew Berry's extension during the course of last season. It's not unusual, although these moves are typically announced in unison, because you want to tie the coach and the general manager together for whatever block of time you're extending them for. Typically the general manager gets done first, and then they work through the coach's deal after that. So now this means that Stefanski's deal is done. Not a surprise at all to me. I mean, you've had 4 years. He's had 2 double-digit win seasons, 2 playoff appearances, and not easy 4 years. I mean, a lot of injuries on the roster. I think last year was really, truly a testament to the height of what Stefanski has been able to bring to the table there, just because of what they went through at the quarterback position. Bringing in Joe Flacco the way that they did, who's not really similar schematically to what you wanted to do with Deshaun Watson there. And I'm sure Nate can speak to that. But I think that Stefanski's ability to deal with not only the injuries, keep them competitive, even in the years that they didn't make the playoffs, and then on top of it, deal with really what's going on with Deshaun Watson. I mean, that we can't say that has not been a distraction in the organization, because acquiring him was a huge distraction. The injuries to him, not being a player who has quite blossomed into, or let's be honest, at all blossomed into what they've been paying him, has been a distraction. And yet he's maintained a really even keel. He's worked really well with Andrew Berry, who obviously I think, the roots of his extension are just the talent that he has been able to add and line that roster with. They've had the depth to deal with some of these injuries. I think it's a very positive step for the Cleveland Browns to show that we've got 2 stewards of the ship where they're the exact mentality that we want. Now we just have to get this turned in the right direction with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Why swerve now? Yeah.
Right.
Finally kind of and what you said, that Stefanski kind of showed off a little bit more kind of like some coaching, some real like stabilizing the ship on the field, and what you're saying with the Deshaun Watson stuff. But him and Bill Callahan, what they did with all the offensive line injuries, running back injuries. Nick Chubb is the hub of that offense, and he goes down in the first month of the season, and 6 quarterbacks, whatever they had to play with. So yeah, it's kind of, to me, it was all right. I always thought Stefanski was at least an above average coach. Mm-hmm. And last year was kind of like, why you can't top what he did. That was his best performance. So if you're not like, you can't swerve now with, especially with a team that has not had consistency at all, a franchise that hasn't had a lot of consistency for years and years. I mean, that's kind of their thing. But also just like the AFC North, the fact that they can go toe to toe, they can make it hard on teams, and whoever you want to credit for the Jim Schwartz move, because sometimes it's the coach, sometimes it's the GM, sometimes it's the owner, but whoever you want to credit, they paid both of these guys, the head coach and the GM. So, if they split the credit, okay, they got paid for it, but that was a nice kind of turning of the page, finding something on the defensive side. So yeah, I think the on-field product was, even with some tumultuous weeks, it was like as best it's been there. So yeah, just keep the good times going, I think.
And Nate, interestingly, you bring up the Jim Schwartz addition at defensive coordinator, which I think, for me, at least when I looked at what they did on the field, and particularly when you talk to people in the organization, how much it meant inside the locker room, it was very much needed. I think that shows the balance between Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, because I think the change was held off 1 extra year because Kevin Stefanski was like, hey, look, let's see if we can get this right. If it does not work, then we can make a left turn at defensive coordinator. And Andrew Berry said, all right, I'm going to let you make that call. We'll figure it out. And then we can come to a compromise if it doesn't. That's exactly what happened prior to the 2023 season when they moved toward Jim Schwartz. But I think that's almost a good measure of 2 guys who are taking different vantage points on the coaching staff. One who's saying, hey, this doesn't feel like it's working right now with this particular coordinator. You have some players that clearly aren't happy, but I'm not going to push this on you. I'm going to let you ultimately make this decision, which he did with Stefanski. And then when it didn't work out, obviously by the end of 2022, then they made the change in 2023. To me, I think that was a good example of how well the 2 worked together in Cleveland.